Hello everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's not home from work yet, and this is Smokeysteveandmarc. Welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. End of the week is always my favorite time. And tonight we're going to be talking about stuff that's been going on all week at work, and then I had a project I was talking about today. So it's the new year, we're a week into the new year. Some of us may have already made resolutions and broken them, and have to start over again. So I just wanted to touch in about mental health, where we landed at the end of last year, and how I'm looking into this year, and the goals that I want to work on as far as managing my mental health. Plus just some general ones for this time of year. You know, people usually do videos about, stay around folks this time of year, the holiday blues, blah, blah. But for me, personally, the most awful time would come spring into summer. So right now, I've been doing kind of okay. Now, again, for myself, I would say the last 5 to 6 months have been pretty okay. Pretty good as far as mental health, compared to the previous so many. The things that were going on before I was starting to feel better was I'd get up and cry before going into work. I'd either binge eat or not eat anything at all. All sorts of other little things that just give indications that something's not right. No big blow up, but just a little, something's not doing too well here. What's this? Having a disagreement with Mark about something, or forgetting something important. So it's not just my mood, my mind's not quite where it needs to be. And that gets tough, but, we all have stuff. Life gets tough. And this time of year, where other people may be struggling, or they may be starting to experience some depression, the seasonal affective stuff. I know it is 15 degrees outside. I did not want to walk home from work. I would have offered to stay late, in fact, probably. But I've been doing okay. It's funny, because usually when we sit down, I'm not. Usually when we sit down, something's brewing. But things have been okay. In the last, I would say, few months leading up into the new year, work was certainly better. I was more on top of the stuff I was supposed to do. My eating was better. I wasn't bingy on stuff. I was eating less sugary foods. Less, not none. Less. I have at this point cut down on smoking quite a bit. But at the time I wasn't really trying. I was just kind of going through the motions. But all of a sudden I figured out that I could quit smoking and not die. Well, not quit. Let's be fair. Let's not go overboard. I went down from about a pack and a half a day to about 4 cigarettes a day. And I vape. So I have the nicotine vape. It's supposed to last for 2,000 puffs. Where the hell is this thing? I would endorse this. I'd love it. And it costs about $15, and it lasts me about a week. So it's not a bad investment. I'm spending about a quarter of what I used to spend on tobacco, which is finally showing up in the pocket. It takes a little while of cutting a bad, expensive habit for the money to show up. All of a sudden, there's a little more in the savings. All of a sudden, there's a little more at the end of the pay. It's not paycheck to paycheck. There's almost money left over. So people said that for years. I always said I'm not going to quit until something terrible happens, but nothing terrible happened yet. I figured I would just hit it off at the pass. At the tender age of 42, I thought it was time to grow up a little bit, maybe, about that. So those were some of the things leading into this year. My concerns going into this year is I'm getting older, and the interrelation between physical health and mental health is something I anticipate seeing as a challenge. I have concerns about it, and I watch it happen to Mark. Mark has some mental health concerns that can make him a little physically ick, and then he has rheumatoid arthritis and other physical health concerns that would depress anybody, let alone having it as one of the symptoms of. So I've seen it happen to him. I've seen the interlock between the physical health and the mental health. My own physical health is not too bad, considering I just quit smoking. Probably my risk factor at the moment is the leftover vaping. That I still do and like, and I don't plan to quit vaping either, but I didn't plan to quit smoking, and there we were. And trying to eat a little bit better is something I'm working on. Eating less across the board, and then eating actual food, because through the holidays I was living on sugar and candy and cookies and rugula and all sorts of other stuff, and it's the holidays, and then you find that you haven't had a comfortable visit to the bathroom in 3 days or so, you know what I mean? So, another way to again look after ourselves, mind and body. So going into this year, I'm going to continue with not smoking. That's going to be a plan that I have. We're going to not smoke any more than 4 a day or so. Actually, I didn't really put a number on it. I just was like, I'll have them when I want them, and it turned into 3 or 4. That one in the morning, the one in the walk home, and then maybe one before bed sometimes. I think last weekend I didn't go out at all because it was too cold. I just stayed in. Exercise is something I want to look at. And then again, that's the mind-body bit that I'm considering now as we're going forward into older age. That I'm going to perhaps lose the mobility physically to do some of the things that right now I can do, but I'm not doing for the sake of pushing it off, fear, laziness, pick your poison. Why am I not addicted to running? I always see those people that say, God, I got so addicted to running. I'm like, how nice for you. If I was addicted to running, you think I'd be on YouTube right now? I'd be out there with it strapped to my arm and we'd be out running and doing vlogs and talking, and I tried to do that. If you look back during COVID, I went for three walks outside and filmed, and it was so awkward filming outside, I couldn't stand to do it. So we had very little of that, but one of the goals going into this year is that I'm going to be paying more attention to my physical health. So that involves things that are simple for me, like stretching, mild cardiovascular activity. I walk to and from work, but that only totals about 15 minutes a day, round trip. In the summer at lunchtime, I go for a walk on my lunch break at work, so that gives me up to about half hour, at least on the working days. And then on the weekends, if I go, I go. If I don't, I don't. Socially, things have been a little bit better at the end of last year into the beginning of this one. It was only in the second half of the last year where I went on a trip to go visit a friend that I hadn't seen since college. Well, since that little DUI I had in Long Island after college. And I had stayed with him. Of course, he was thrilled to see me at the time. And now it was 16, 17, 18, I don't know how many years later, we reconvened. And it was different. I forget that I used to have closer friends, people that I liked hanging out with, and they liked hanging out with me. And it wasn't out of obligation or anything like that. It was just to enjoy each other's company. And so it was nice to do that. It was also the first time, aside from work, where I've traveled away from work for any period of time. And I felt so comfortable leaving. I had zero concerns about anything he was going to be doing, except looking after himself. I was worried. Zero worries about myself. I was in a few different situations when I was there that could have been risky for someone in my situation if I hadn't been doing okay. Went down for a nice visit. The bus ride was 6 hours long getting there and 6 hours home because there was traffic going both ways. That could be triggering, and the batteries on my headphones died, so I was getting close to mad. And that was just part of the journey. Then I had to get an Uber. I had never gotten an Uber before, I don't think. And I got there and got off the bus, and no, I had one before, but I never got one in a city. So stand around, wait to get that. That was nerve-wracking. I was getting anxious. I was like, ugh, but made it through it. And by pushing through some of the little anxious bits that have gone along with that trip, and I mean, when we're not firing on all cylinders, I'm thinking things like, what if I get off the bus and my luggage isn't there? It's gotta be there, or someone stole it. Who's gonna steal my luggage? I have shitty clothes and dirty hats. So I don't think anyone's gonna be taking my stuff, but the fear of that is in there with me, of doing that. I was having fears that it's an old friend, and maybe we won't click and I'll end up just leaving after an hour or two, because maybe just you don't remember people the same way they were, or you remember them differently than they are, or you've changed and they haven't, or anything in that vein. So that was a new experience, to travel out alone, to go see someone from the past, because my life was about cut in half with addiction. I had, youth growing up, high school, college, and then up to about 2007, I was doing the grown-up, young adult work party type thing. And then everything from 25 to 30-ish, 5 years or so, is a wash, And now that I'm older and had some more time to, I guess, play catch up, if you will, it feels okay. But I was so bitter at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm glad to be alive. And you hate to say but that just shows that you're not in a good spot, that you're like, yeah, I'm glad to be alive, but I was not making sense out of life at the time. I was not happy with myself that I was 5-6 years behind my peers, that I was just now getting back to getting my first grown-up job, and everyone else is onto the first house and the baby. Now, I didn't want a house or a baby, but that's not the point. It's that I couldn't have those things because of the time that I had lost. So sometimes time gives you good favors, and I've had more time now to clean up myself, clean up my credit history, clean up my body a little bit, clean up my work history. I had large, giant holes in my resume for years because I would get a job, get 3 paychecks, get drunk, get fired. I had to call out once from jail. You don't want to engage in those kind of things. And it was really a nice distance to see that from the last time I'd seen this friend, I was way, way intoxicated, to now where I've been arguably never healthier mentally, which says a lot, and it leaves room to grow. I wasn't planning necessarily on getting well or moving forward. I just was at the very beginning of all of this, May 2012, when it's all kind of started, the whole let's get better thing. I didn't really think I was going to do it. I thought I'd just give it a little time and then let it go. Give it a little time and give it 6 months, and then if I want to go out and get nuts again and go drink again, then I can go do that. Stuff started to happen in the meantime that didn't really make it easy to go out and self-destruct again. At this point, there's a lot more to lose in my life, but I also have a shit ton more support. So there's different things going on. I'll give you an example. In the last, well, this was pre-COVID, February 2020, my mental health was tanking poorly. And I ended up in a mental health inpatient unit for, it was a shorter stint. It was about 4 days. And then I got out, and 2 weeks later, COVID started and we were all locked down. Now, that happened in 2020. I was 6 years into my career. I was 2020. How many years out of college? 15. Had a degree, you know, in a relationship with a person. Mark and I were a couple at the time, living together. Money in the bank, food in the fridge, money in the wallet, everything was good, but I was out of my gourd. Now, in another time and place, that could have reset the clock on my entire life. Had that happened and I had no natural supports, no resources, if I didn't have the knowledge I have of the mental health and human service systems, as effed up as they are, at least knowing how they work and how they don't work can be helpful. And I was able to make use of that knowledge to kind of find my way through. I also had existing natural supports. I had rebuilt relationships with people that I had burnt in the previous decade. So when I needed help, they were there. And I wasn't too stubborn to ask for it. And I wasn't too stubborn to say, I don't know what was wrong. I just don't feel good, okay? Everything's fine. I love my job, love my husband, wish I was dead. That was the last trip to the hospital. And again, it didn't collapse because it was approached differently. It was approached as a team with me and the other treatment people I work with. It was Mark having input on what's going on and him being my, advanced directive power of attorney to select some decisions for me if I couldn't do it. If I was too unwell to make them myself, he'd be the proxy who'd step in to do it. I had a plan for what it would be like when I came home, if I was going to take time off of work. So the situation was different because all the protective factors were different, I think. And there was more knowledge and more support and more of an understanding of what was going on. Now, that took years and years of trial and error and mistakes, and that's most of us, and you're probably not going to listen to me. Most people wouldn't. I don't. But people were, of course, correct. Had I changed what I was doing earlier, I would have saved myself quite a few bumps. And I still go back and forth with beating myself up over lost opportunities and things, but are they really lost? I mean, I'm still alive. So if I wanted to do any of those things, I certainly could. I've rewritten my life and started it over again. I don't know. One thing that addicts do particularly well is start over again. Because we do it so often. And the last time I had to do it, I had a ton of support, and then this time it's still good. So, get pets. If you're allowed to have a pet and you have mental health that's kind of dicey, get one. It was a reason to think of something other than me when I got up. How do I feel today? What's the world gonna screw me over with? Hard to do when the cat's standing on your face because they're hungry. So it got me out of myself a little bit in the morning and got me moving. And little by little, those little things over the course of now 10 years, over 10 years, life and health and mental health and recovery just look a lot different on my life than they did then. It's a lot less about medication. It's a lot more about activities. It's a lot more about kind of perspective that I've had and kind of being able to lean into that and trust, no, I do know what I'm talking about. No, you don't. No, you're not going to confuse me, no matter how many different ways you say that. So trying to have some trust in my own experience, professionally and personally too. So I don't live with imposter syndrome, because that was the next thing. As soon as I got over crippling addiction and the brink of madness, imposter syndrome, body dysmorphia, can't be satisfied. So we're still in progress on that, but it's been forward or stalled. It hasn't gone back yet. So we're going into this year a lot different than we went into last year, where I was having doubts about all sorts of stuff and not feeling so hot about the decisions I was making and feeling like terribly misunderstood and nobody understood what I was going through. Whenever you find yourself doing that, think foodie and think rethink. Don't get stuck in the train of the whole world's out to screw me. Remember, when you think everyone's being the asshole, take a second and say, maybe it's me. You're not an asshole permanently, but maybe in this situation, you're being the asshole. If it seems like everyone else doesn't get it and everybody else is wrong, you can find people that agree with you to pat you on the back. You can sort through, those kind of things with other people who disagree. Or we just simply go forward. So that's, I think, what I have to share with you today. My only suggestions, if I have any, and take them with a grain of salt. I'm a person in recovery, but I do not have a degree. I'm not a diagnosing professional. Just be easy on yourself this time of year. Be so easy. It doesn't matter if the weather's hot or cold where you are globally, but when you go post-holidays, it can get kind of trying. It can get kind of lonely. Even if you don't observe the holidays, all the social activity of the season drops and stops. And if you find yourself getting sucked in, tell somebody. Don't keep secrets. The 12-step circles, they always said secrets keep you sick. I don't know about that necessarily, but it certainly doesn't help. If I'm suffering and nobody knows, then as far as anyone knew, I wasn't suffering. The extremes of that is when you end with a situation where people say, we don't know what happened. He'd been doing so well for so long. But I wasn't. I was just tap dancing because I didn't want to deal with the backlash of the responsibility of having to care for myself or be responsible for other people. We live and learn. I don't always sound this responsible. I can be a deadbeat at times, don't forget. Progress, not perfection. But again, I think age, experience, time, work, and a lot of coffee and talks with Mark and a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of coffee talks about Our Fair Lady, kind of comparing how many different ways the life can look based on the decisions that we make. And that's kind of the new track we're going to be looking at too as we're going in with Foodie Beauty. So it'll be another chance to bring up the topic more often. Talk about maybe her and her health in context. From what I understand, she's going on another resolution to not eat fast food for a year. She said this while she was slurping down zesty sauce. So we'll see. In the meantime, I will be watching. Watching her show, watching my show a little more closely. I don't have much business noodling around in her life if my own ducks aren't in a row. So as long as I can keep myself sane and my side of the street clean, I can share a few opinions here or there, I suppose. So thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, hit the notification bell. You get alerts when we have new videos and go live. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Contact info is below. Thanks, and we'll catch up with you very, very soon. So stay warm, please. Thoughts for California here in the States, and we'll catch up with y'all soon, okay? Bye.